Hi, my name's Terry Doyle. I am with Raypak Incorporated. I work in the marketing department, and I'm excited to tell you about our new Raypak Professional Series pool pump. We have a couple of model sizes, a 2.7 horsepower and a 1.65 horsepower. This one right here is our 1.65, and that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Basically, what we're going to do is go over a few points to get you in for your initial startup, and then kind of tell you how to program it and a couple of the features of the product. We're going to go over the factory default settings, how to program the control for its various program steps, how to override the control if need be, how to do what we call schedule advance, so you can start the program at any time after you leave. You don't have to start it right away. We're going to talk about motor pause, where it doesn't mess with the program, the 24-hour program that we set up for the internal clock. And then we're going to also the all-important keyboard lockout, so we can keep either homeowners in a condo association or children from getting in and screwing up with a nice program that we put together to help you save all your energy. But it still does allow you to hit the stop button for an override. The other is we're going to address what happens in a power outage and what the pump can do for you. And then when all else fails, we're going to go over factory defaults. If for some reason or other you get lost in the programming process or it becomes a little overwhelming, which I don't think it will, because even I can program this pump. I'm going to give you a basic, really quick overview of the new Raypak Professional pump. On the back end here we have the motor assembly. Up here we have the variable speed controller. All the programming is handled under the lid here. It's very simple. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. We have 2-inch inlet and outlet connections on the pump for handling most applications. It can be bushed down to 1.5, and it can be bushed up to 2.5 if need be. But it comes standard with 2-inch PVC fittings from Raypak, so it's great for the service guy that likes to cut, glue, and go when he's on the job. The other cool feature on this pump is the lid ring, which is just a hand-tight feature. It doesn't require any special tools. You've got a nice see-through lid in there, so the homeowner can look in there and see if he's gotten any debris in his strainer basket. Strainer basket pops right out. It's bright white, so you can see any debris, pine needles, all those little foreign particles that like to get stuck in there. Just take your garden hose, hose it out, put it back in. You can see it's nice and oversized. Drops right back in. O-rings run on top of the lid. Then we're going to take our nice little strainer ring, throw it on. Hand tight is all you need, and you're good to go. When you purchase the Raypak Professional pump, as it comes out of the box, it's already pre-programmed to run at a default setting of 12 hours and at 1100 RPM. So that means even if you didn't do any programming or anything else to the product, you could plumb it in, hook up the electrical, push the start button, and walk away, and you'll get immediate filtration. All right, the next step with your new Raypak Professional Series pump is to program it. And if you're familiar with any of the other variable speed products on the market, you know it can be a pretty intimidating and daunting task. I have to tell you, the Raypak Professional Series couldn't make it simpler. You have 3 program modes labeled Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3. All you're doing in each step is setting the RPM of the motor and then the duration for how long you want it to run for. You can set just 1 step, 2 steps at different speeds, or 3 steps at different speeds. You can set 1 and 2 for speed and step 3 for off. It all depends what you're looking to do with your pool. What we're going to do right now is program step 1. I'm going to go ahead and hit the step button. And the first thing that happens is the LED under speed comes on. We're going to adjust the little plus and minus buttons here. And what we're going to do is get it to read at 3,450 RPM. And what this is typically that's your highest speed, and this will be great for a suction cleaner if you have one on a pool. The idea is to get the maximum draw so the cleaner can do its job as efficiently as it can. The next thing we're going to do is press step 1 again to set the duration. The duration we set for on this, we want to set for 2 hours. That's typical time enough. You're running it every day for the pool sweep to go around and do its job and get all the major debris out of there. If you find it's not doing the job for you, just increase the duration a little bit. Another great feature of this pump is every time that you press a key, that setting is saved. You don't have to program and then hit a save button. Anytime you place it to a speed or you place it to a duration, that setting is saved. So now that we've got step 1 set for 3,450 RPM at 2 hours runtime, we're going to go to step 2. And this is where our real energy savings is going to come in. We're going to set step 2 to run at a very low speed, say 1,350 RPM. We could even drop a little bit lower if we wanted, but I just chose 1,350 for this example. So at 1,350, we're going to get a tremendous energy savings on this pump. And the other thing we're going to do is increase our normal run time than we would normally have on a swimming pump. Normally, because you're running this huge, 2 horsepower, 1.5 horsepower pump all day, and you might run it for 8-10 hours a day, you don't need to do that with a variable speed pump. Since you run at such a low RPM and you use so little wattage, you can actually set your time for much longer and still get a tremendous energy savings. So now that we've got step 2 set at 1,350 RPM, we're going to hit the step key again, and what we're going to do is set it for 14 hours. 14 hours is going to give us plenty of time for filtration, depending on the size pool we have. On like a 15,000 gallon pool, this would be just fine because we're going to turn over about 5,000 gallons just on the cleaning mode, where we're at 3,450 at 2 hours, and now we're dropping down to the slower speed, 1,350 for 14 hours. Now that we've done this, step 1 and step 2 are programmed completely. The next step would be step 3. I don't think we need any more pumping to go on during that time period, so I'm just going to set the speed down to 0. And then we'll hit step 3 again, and then we'll bring that into the remaining time that's left. We have 12 plus 14, that's 16, so we need 6 more hours to fill out a 24-hour clock. So we'll have this set at 6 hours, and it won't run for those last 6 hours. Once it goes through this program for the day, it restarts and starts the program over again. The next feature that I'm going to talk about is the override feature. Now that we're done programming the pump, and the pump's able to run for 24 hours and run through its different steps at different RPMs and different durations, there comes a time when we may want to run the pump, say at maximum speed for a few hours out of the ordinary schedule that we have set up. The Raypak Professional pump has that ability to do that, and it's really simple to program. The button is called override, and you press it just like you would the step button. When you press it, the speed light comes on. What we're going to do is bump the speed all the way up to 3,450, the maximum speed. This will work with vacuums, cleaners, great for jacuzzi, anything where you need the full output of the pump to get as maximum flow that you need. The next thing we're going to do is set the duration, just like we would on step 1, 2, or 3. We hit the override button again, and we're going to go ahead and set, say, 4 hours. That gives us enough time to have a great jacuzzi party and more than enough time to vacuum the pool. I know me personally, I'd spend about an hour and then I'd be done. But we're going to go ahead and set it for 4, and that's all we need to do. Once we've done that and set the override button up, it will keep that program in there anytime you need to use it. And for right now, we're going and we're using the override as it sits right now. It's running at 3,400 RPM at 850, and that's perfect. So if we wanted to do that, we'd hit the start button. Pump's going to come on. I'm going to turn it off just so I can speak over it. It's going to go through its 3-minute prime, which is full velocity, full RPM, go into its first step, go through its paces, and then I could hit override. And when I do, it's going to come up and give me 3,400 RPM at 4 hours anytime I want. And it'll never disturb that underlying 24-hour clock that we programmed earlier. So that's the primary function of the override. We've already learned how to program the various steps and speeds with the Raypak Professional pump, and we've developed our 24-hour time clock. We've also learned how to override, where we can run the pump at any speed, at any duration, and not disturb the 24-hour clock. But there does come a time when we don't want the 24-hour clock to start right away. We may want to delay that for any period of time. And a perfect example of that is you're an installer, you've just installed the pump. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and everything's glued in, glue's dry, everything's set to go, you've tested the pump, it works fine, homeowner's happy. The homeowner says, I don't want this program that you set up to start until 8 o'clock in the morning. I want to take advantage of the low utility rates. It's real easy to put this into the schedule advance mode. The pump has to be off. Make sure you hit the stop button. We hold the start button down for just a little over 3 seconds. And when we do, the start button flashes on and off. The duration light lights up. And then the next thing we do is we set the time, how many hours from now we want this pump schedule to begin. The 24-hour clock that we set up previously in our programming. In our case, it's 18 hours, so I've gone ahead and set it for 18 hours. There's nothing else we need to do now. We just walk away from this, and tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., this pump will start. Step 1 will light up. It'll go through its normal pump procedure that we had set up, and it'll be going on a regular schedule starting at 8 a.m. every day. The next function that this pump has is called motor pause. And what this does is it allows you to stop the motor without interrupting that 24-hour cycle. Say you want to clean the filter basket, you get in there and get something out of there that drifted in, or somebody wants to get into the jacuzzi area and the pump's running at the time. It's real simple to do. It's just a function that only works when the pump is actually running. And all you do is you hold the start button down for 3 seconds, a little more than 3 seconds, and the start button and override button blink. And what that does, it just allows you to momentarily stop the motor from running, but the time clock runs in the background just the way it's supposed to. You do whatever it is you need to do, emptying your little strainer basket, getting something out of the pool, whatever it is that caused you to want to stop your pump from running. When you want to resume, you just go back, take the start key, and hold it down for a little more than 3 seconds, and the pump picks up where it left off in its normal step 1, step 2, or step 3 24-hour cycle mode. The next function we're going to talk about is a pretty handy function. It's called keypad lockout. And what it basically does is that it makes all the input buttons on there null for any period of time that you would like. It basically locks out the keypad so your kids can't go in there and push buttons and make the pump run or change all the settings that you've done. It's also something that a serviceman or a HOA, condo association, may want to do, is go in and lock out the keypad so the precise 24-hour clock and filtration system that they set up is left alone. It's very simple to do. All you do is hold step 1, step 2, step 3 buttons down for 3 seconds, a little bit more. And then when you do and you let up, all the buttons are blinking. And that lets you know that the keypad is locked out. The keypad will stay indefinitely locked out until you override it by again holding step 1, step 2, and step 3 down, pressing all 3 down at the same time for a little more than 3 seconds, and that will unlock the keypad and allow you to have input throughout the whole keypad. The one function that the keypad will not lock out is the stop function. You can always get to and stop the pump even if the keypad's locked out, and that's for safety reasons. A commonly asked question when dealing with anything that's programmable is what happens when there's a power outage. With the Raypak Professional Pump, if there's a power outage and power is stopped being supplied to the product, what'll happen as soon as the power is restored, the program starts its 24-hour cycle from the very beginning at step 1 and will run through its sequence at the time the power is restored. That's if you don't hit the stop button during the blackout or right after. If you hit the stop button, then that gives you a chance to go in and then do the schedule advance and have it restart at a startup time that you want. But you can rest assured that even if there's a blackout and you're not home, as soon as the power is restored, the pump will go back in, retain its memory, may not start at the time that you had originally set up, but it will maintain filtration and you won't wind up with a green pool. The next function we're going to talk about is a pretty simple, pretty common function that when all else fails and you don't seem that you've been able to program it correctly, how do I get it back to the original factory defaults? And that's pretty simple. On the Raypak Professional, all you have to do is hit the stop button, hold it down for 3 seconds, a little bit more, and then let go, and it restores it back to the original factory default settings.